this. So, good evening, Sanchit, and congratulations on scoring a 750. You must be super psyched. I know it's been about a month right now. You wrote to us on 15th of or 14th or 15th of July. So, but I hope you're still very, very excited and happy about that score.
Regarding the score, I am, but still, it's a long way to go. So I'm not.
It's only half done. The score is only one part of the
less than
equation.
half actually.
Well, it is depending on which schools you apply to. It could actually be a huge portion. So I think we'll discuss this in the second part. And so yeah, it depends on which schools you apply to. A GMAT could be as much as 60-70% for some schools. So overall, let's start with your preparation first. You prepared for about 3.5 months, as you wrote in your debrief.
Yeah, it's actually. Let me start from a year back when I started preparation for CAT. That was the actual time when I started the preparation, and I knew that since I am an engineer and it's a notion that engineers are good at quant, so I was actually good at quant. I discovered during my preparation days. So I knew that my weak portion was verbal only. So last year also I put more focus on verbal itself.
So you prepared for GMAT in 2016?
CAT, not GMAT.
Okay.
CAT. So for verbal only, I put more focus last year also. And what difference I did for GMAT and in CAT, I told as I mailed you also, I got 77 percentile.
77 percentile on CAT verbal.
As compared to quant, I got 99.6 percentile. While I put more hours for verbal.
So just to make sure we put this in context. So CAT gives you like the GMAT CAT gives you a quant and verbal percentiles. On quant you got 99 point what?
6 percentile.
99.6 and on verbal in CAT you got
77.7%.
So what was your overall percentile on CAT?
97.5. There are 3 portions actually in CAT. The third portion is the data interpretation and logical reasoning one. In that I got 96.5%.
Okay.
So the overall was 97.5, but I was not able to clear my verbal cutoff.
Okay.
So that was the problem.
Okay.
So last year what I used to do, I read a lot also last year. And those were articles on different topics. Basically, CAT has 80% portion RC only. But it's C difference. It's a C on the GMAT and CAT are not at all similar with that respect. So this year, what I did was in February, I guess I enrolled for e-GMAT course. At that time only, I started preparation for GMAT, and my verbal portion again I knew.
Okay, so you started preparing for GMAT. What made you enroll in the e-GMAT course? Or how did you get to know about us?
Through my friend, one of my friends. Her name is Priya. So she suggested me that first of all, I was not aware of the format of GMAT at all. So I googled it up, and then she gave GMAT in January.
Okay.
So she guided me that way, and she told me that if you have got 99.6 percentile in quant, then GMAT's quant is relatively easier than CAT's quant. So but the verbal part is not only different but a bit difficult also than CAT. So that was the part. So basically, I thought that it will be a good opportunity for me to improve my verbal also.
Okay.
That way, if I prepared for GMAT. So again, what difference I did as compared to my CAT preparation was not only I focused on diverse topic to be read, but also I bought a Kindle, as I told you, and I read different novels of foreign authors, so that I could understand the contextual meaning more than.
What kind of novels did you read?
Just Google some classic novels like that. Nothing anything specific regarding GMAT. It was like general reading. I wanted to improve my verbal organically.
Okay, but that was remember, if you Google classic, you will get Pride and Prejudice. I don't think I did.
I read
Pride and Prejudice.
Yes, okay. I did read it.
Okay. That's not something that
Three Musketeers.
Musketeers, okay.
Yeah, I read Three Musketeers.
Okay.
And then I read this Shiva trilogy, Indian book, Amish Tripaঠি's.
Okay.
So that way, I think that helped me a lot. Okay. Because my reading speed increased exponentially.
Okay.
So that is a very critical part in GMAT. As I'll tell you, most of the, as I well, reading suggestions for many of the tutors and all. When I was googling, they all told me that the sentence correction part you have to do early so that you can spend that time in RC part.
You have to do fast, you
But
mean to say?
yeah, yes. So, but my my sentence correction portion was the weakest among the three sections. So, and my faster reading habit, that time got compensated in the sentence correction.
Okay, so let's get to that when in the mock piece first.
Yeah.
But before, let's talk about your preparation. You said your sentence correction was the weakest, right?
Yes.
So and when did you recognize this?
In the initial stages only.
Okay. Did you give a mock test in the initial stages even before you purchased the e-GMAT course?
Sectional, no, I didn't give, but a sectional wise I gave. Sectional mock tests I gave.
Okay, what were your scores in that?
I don't remember, but it was the sentence correction portion was the weakest. That I figured out.
Okay, was the weakest.
I don't remember the exact scores right now.
So then did you?
It was a long time back.
Okay, so then did you start with the e-GMAT SC course, or did you study from somewhere else?
No, nothing else. I did only e-GMAT SC course. I did nothing else.
Okay.
And what I did was I mentioned the debrief also. See, I made notes of all your slides.
Okay.
And in a notebook, I made all the notes. And what I did was see remembering all the rules is not easy. I was not able to do that anyway. So what I did was I used to go through them just as just a reading, simple reading.
Okay.
On a weekly basis, you can say that like that.
You would go through the notes, your notes.
Yeah.
On a weekly basis.
It took me around 1 month to prepare those notes, and weekly I used to go through them. Just go through them. Just read them.
How long would it take for you to go through the notes that you made?
More than 2 hours, I guess. So
it would take
it's not a continuous process. It's not a continuous process. It's not a continuous process.
What do you mean by that?
Well, look, you can't read it like continuously for 2 hours.
Okay.
It's very overwhelming that way. So, and one more thing which I used to do was before giving a mock, I always went through all my notes.
Okay.
Since quant was my relatively stronger portion, I did not prepare that much. I did not use e-GMAT resources of quant that much as compared to verbal resources. And
which makes sense. You were 99.76 percentile in quant on CAT. So
that's why. So what I used to do was, while I was giving mocks, I used to prepare for quant at that time only. What my target was. And during the preparation only, I found that critical reasoning portion of mine was relatively good as compared to the other two sections.
Okay.
So, but the questions are long enough, so I cannot leverage my time from that section. So that was my whole of initial stages preparation.
Okay, so you basically prepared for a couple of months. You did as I read through your debrief. You prepared for a couple of months. You finished the theory. You made notes during this time. You would revise those notes. Did you make notes in critical reasoning as well?
I did, but they were far shorter than the sentence.
There aren't that many concepts in critical reasoning. It's much more logical.
But that was very helpful. I'll tell you, the e-GMAT critical reasoning portion is also very helpful.
Okay. Did you follow the meaning-based approach in sentence correction? Would you look for meaning?
Yes, obviously. Without that, you cannot do the sentence correction part. And that, something is called instinct is there, that this answer is correct. I read some of the reviews that instinct might misguide you sometimes.
Backfire.
Yeah, backfire. But in my case, it didn't. And for me, what worked, I think, was continuously going through those notes. So it's somewhere at the back of my mind, I was able to connect.
So I think the instinct backfires if you don't have a meaning-based approach. So I follow a lot of instinct. So I think the thing really is, when do you go for or how are you going about the instinct? So in the classical case, when people look at instinct, it's really, I read the sentence, this seems right. And because I have read such constructs many a times that I see such constructs being used in spoken English. Now that's the what I call as the ear-based approach, which is what they call as instinct. If you are following the meaning-based approach, and you really say this seems logical, and then you really say, hey, and I have seen these constructs being used. Okay.
Yeah, that,
So then the instinct actually is a big time saver, because you don't really have to scan every aspect of the sentence, and you've already tested the logic part before you looked at the construct piece. So so again, instinct can be a double-edged sword. It's just that make sure that edge is not pointing at you; it's pointing the other way around.
yeah.
So
So I guess I was lucky that way.
yes. So not lucky. I think it's the right method. It's
Okay.
basically so a lot of even in business you're going to use a lot of instinct, and as long as you're intuitively using the right method, instincts usually are right. I mean, and I don't know if you read reports in the operations work that you do, but if you know how to do a job in a certain way, and you see someone else has done a job, and you see a report of it, and you see, for example, the amount of time required to do a certain amount of operation, you can really instinctively say that operation is probably not done correctly, because on an average it takes 30 minutes
Yeah.
to do a task, the person has done it in 10 minutes, and if they've done it in 10 minutes how it could be done,
Yes.
right?
That's
And
what. Yeah, that's about it.
yeah, and so I think that's kind of where instinct is a huge thing. It's just that you have to have the right method behind the instinct, and that's
Yeah.
something which is very important.
I guess the reading also helped me a lot there,
I'm
because
sure.
I was able to contextualize the meaning also.
Yes, and
So
which is super important to be
yes,
able
yes,
to,
yes,
to to do that. Now, you studied theory, then you gave 4 mock tests before your actual
yes,
exam, right?
yes.
You said you would take a mock test every Wednesday.
Because I work in rotational shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'm a chemical engineer,
Mm-hmm.
so I work in production department for chemical. It's a continuous process. So
Yep.
plant runs 24/7.
Yep.
So we have 7 groups. So each group takes one day off. So my group is of Wednesday off group. So
Okay.
that's why I used to take my weekly off is on Wednesday. I don't
Okay.
have offs on weekends.
On the week,
So
I, I
that's
I I
why,
know how process plants work. I used to
yeah,
work
yeah,
for Honeywell.
yeah. I saw your profile. LinkedIn profile.
Yes. So essentially, you gave these 4 mocks. Your scores were 680, 710, 750, and 740. So there was more
Yes,
or less, a progression for the first 3 weeks.
yes, yes.
What caused those progressions? I mean, what were you doing between the mock tests that helped you improve from a 680 to a 750?
So basically, the problem was sentence correction only. Again,
Okay.
my quant, I was scoring around 49 to 51 only in all
Mm-hmm.
my quants
Mm-hmm.
without much preparation. So I knew that that area doesn't require that much focus.
Mm-hmm.
Critical reasoning also I was scoring well. The problem was sentence correction itself. So again, what I used to do was I didn't leave my reading habit.
Mm-hmm.
In CAT was what I learned from there was that I got too tensed at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Because in CAT, when I used to give mock tests, in some mock tests I used to score very good in verbal. In
Mm-hmm.
some mock tests I used to score very bad in verbal. So that
Mm-hmm.
consistency was lacking. So
Mm-hmm.
what I tried was I didn't go for some experimentation that this time.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to stick to my basics. I thought
Okay.
that if I'll go through this again and again, there will be a time that it will stick to my head.
So you would revise your
Uh,
notes and other things.
yes, yes, yes. Especially
So
sentence correction notes.
especially sentence correction notes. And
Yeah.
as you did that, you saw that your scores improved from 680 to 710 to 750.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now you also mentioned that you'd study, you'd read for a couple of 1 to 2 hours on Kindle, and then you would study verbal for 1 to 2 hours every day. How did you get so much time?
See, I used to go only 8 hours a job. Look, you have 24 hours a
Okay.
day.
So prior to studying for GMAT or prior to studying for CAT, where would you spend this free
uh,
time that you have?
Actually, see, I'll tell you the whole of my daily routine.
Hmm.
I teach also. I teach tuitions. I take tuitions for 9th to 10th, 12th class students.
Okay.
So, and I used to play also. That
Okay.
playing time I cut.
What
I
did you
didn't
play?
go. I play tennis.
You
I
play
play
tennis.
multiple games. Right now it's tennis.
Okay.
So that time I reduced.
Okay.
That 1 to 2 hours for tennis I used to cut short,
Mm-hmm.
and that time I used to spend in my this GMAT thing.
Okay.
And
All right.
reading part is like 1 to 2 hours. It can be in patches also. You can go to any and
But
read.
still, you need to
If in
read for
office also,
20
if you get
minutes.
free time, in office if you get free time, you can read that at that time also. So
If there is no disaster in
lunchtime,
the office.
yeah, it's not on a daily basis. There's no disaster anyway, so you can get that much of time in office.
Yes. Okay.
It's just that habit should be continued. There should not be any discontinuation in between.
That is very important.
As
I mean,
long, yeah,
you need to be consistent, and if you can't
consistent.
find time, you need to make time.
Yeah, and trusting yourself is very important. Look, don't get disheartened. First of all, when I got 680, I was something. Look, I got disheartened, but see the solution. When you see the solution of the question, that's very, very important. That's what wrong did. What was the wrong part? What was the approach? Wrong approach you were trying to apply there in the question.
Okay.
So
you talked about solution, and one of the platforms that we do for in which we offer a lot of questions is Scholaranium. Did you use Scholaranium?
initially I did, but see, there was as I told you, during night shifts that week I was not able to do any of the mocks or any of the practice work because the whole of the day was spent in sleeping only. You cannot, I used to sleep more during night shifts during the daytime.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So Scholaranium initially I did, but then there was the dilemma, you can say in that way. Either I should do mocks or I should go for Scholaranium. So I preferred mocks.
You prefer
because
mocks,
that's actual, yeah, that's
that's
test
true.
environment.
It gives you a score. Yes.
Yeah, because I had less preparation of time also. But
That's true. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to give my GMAT in June only, so that I have ample time to apply for round 1.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now,
if I get good marks.
you basically created the study. You worked with these two other students, and you had the study group where you paired with people who were taking the GRE.
Yes.
Right. So, what was the benefit of studying with two other individuals?
Again, I'll talk about it contrasting with my CAT preparation. Last year I used to study alone. So there was a time that I used to get exhausted. Look, the timetable part also was not that much consistent, as I can say. Now, when I was studying with these two guys, so they used to motivate me. In a group, you motivate each other. That's my and if some time is decided that we'll study for this at this hour, then we have to stick to it. Basically, like today, I came back from work at 10, so we used to say that we'll start from 10:30 at his house. So it's my obligation basically. So even if I'm exhausted, tired from work, then I don't have any option. So that I think that created my temperament also, because after 8 hours of work, I used to go to study with them. Since I am a chemical engineer, they both were not. So they used to work in general shifts only. So we had to plan that way also. The time management part was very important. So I think that helped me a lot.
So it helped you stay consistent.
They kept me motivated. Yeah. Stay consistent and kept me motivated.
That is very, very important. Now let's talk about your exam, the actual day. You had a bad time in your integrated reasoning part.
Yes.
Right. You got a 4 on IR. Right.
Yeah.
So you knew when you took the IR section that you did not do well.
I just did. After my first question, I spent a whole lot of time in the first question. So that's where the panic crept in. See, my AWA portion was good. So the confidence was there. But my what you have to do is you have to move on. I didn't do that. Yeah, so the panic crept in. And consequently, I think the next question suffered. They might be easier one.
So you took the exam when? Let
21st June. 21st June.
Okay, so it was still AWA, IR, quant, verbal.
Yes. Now they are giving options, I guess.
Now they're giving options. Yes.
Yeah.
So now tell me. So you did badly on IR. What did you tell yourself before the quant section?
I just there was 8-minute break before that. So I knew that my quant was good. So I just thought that I have to regain my confidence. The confidence part is very, very important in giving any of the exams. I'm just telling you. So I thought that let me focus on my strengths. it was a boon for me that the quant section was next. Had it been the verbal section, I don't know how I would have coped up with that. But the quant section was next, and I knew that I was recently good enough in quant. So just stick to my basics and try to forget that. You don't forget, that's the obvious part, but you try to forget that. And as soon as the first question came and I did it, then the whole scenario changed. My concentration was purely on quant. There was no IR in my mind.
All right. So now let's talk about the last thing that I have. I'm just looking at my notes over here, which is your timing strategy. So in your debrief, what you wrote was you typically the prevailing wisdom is sentence correction helps you make time for critical reasoning and reading comprehension, but that did not work as well for you.
RC made the time for sentence correction for me.
RC made, because you were good in RC, and you also said you were good in critical reasoning.
I was good in critical reasoning, but the critical reasoning, the questions are long enough. So
the questions are longer, and if you're
they are time consuming.
They become the extent of difficulty that you can increase in critical reasoning is a lot more.
So
than
in my case, the time RC made the time for sentence correction, and initial sentence correction questions were easy.
Yes.
So that's why initially the questions were very easy. So that also made up my time.
Did you get your ESR by any chance?
No.
Okay, I think it's you should get your ESR, spend that money to really see how you actually did.
Well, I didn't get the time to reflect upon it because I was, again, I gave my TOEFL then and I want to.
How did you do on your TOEFL?
I got 108.
Okay.
In TOEFL.
No,
out of 120.
Out of 120. What percentile does that amount to?
Percentile, they don't give percentiles. Actually, you need 90 plus,
90 plus
for
most,
decent B schools, and then for Harvard and Stanford, you need 105 plus.
Okay.
So I'm good there.
You're good there, okay.
Yeah, so
okay.
I'm eligible at least.
So let's talk about your future. What is it that you want to do?
Firstly, one more thing I want to add. In quant section, just don't be overconfident. I think I mentioned it in my debrief or not. One question, I guess to third or fourth question, I could have got more than 50 in my quant, but barring that one question, I guess, which was a relatively easier question, but I thought I marked it wrong, and as soon as I marked the answer wrong, I knew that I marked it wrong.
We hate it when that happens.
Yeah, so the next question I was very careful enough. So just don't let the overconfidence thing get on your mind before attempting any section if you are good at it. So that's one more advice.
Okay, that's good advice. I would say that's really good advice.
Yeah.
So
otherwise, I would have got more in quant.
You have a very good score right now. 750 is you're at 98th percentile right now. So 98th percentile on GMAT's way better than 99th percentile on CAT. I'll tell you, I know students who've gotten 99th percentile on CAT aren't able to get to 95 on GMAT.
Okay.
So yes. So let's talk about. We have people who work at e-GMAT who have 99.97 percentile on CAT overall, and they have a 760 on GMAT. So I mean, you can really see even the best of the best. I actually just had a guy who applied for a position who had a 99.96 on CAT, and he has a 740 after that on the GMAT. So
depends on the day also.
It does depend on the day, but I mean that guy's taken CAT 3 times, and every time he has scored 99.6 or more. So
fine.
so anyhow, coming back to to what do you want to do next? So you are in operations. You want to become an operations manager. Yes. Right. Your choice of schools is Harvard, Stanford, and if I remember,
Wharton. Wharton, and the INSEAD also I sent my scores, and one is ISB, Institute of Business.
Okay, so why these schools when you want to get into operations?
Basically, firstly, my GMAT score prompted me to do that.
Yeah, but you want to get into operations, right?
Yeah, but I also want to go into good B schools. Look, for me, firstly, I I cannot tell you like. Well, what is it? Why not which college?
Oh, I mean,
You're asking
if
me.
I were you, I would go to Michigan, where I mean, which is the place where Amazon hires the most. I mean, it's one of the biggest recruiters.
Yeah, but I don't want to go to. My operations is different kind of operations I want to go to. Uh, I didn't tell you. I guess, see, I want to go to. My aim is to start a production facility of a fruit juice company, fresh fruit juice company.
Okay.
It's a transition. Look, if there was an incident, should I tell you the whole thing?
No, well, you can, but I mean, I understand
It's
the
not
fruit juice
relevant.
company.
Actually, it's not relevant.
So
That's why I'm
I can
telling it.
really tell you, one of my best friends, who's my classmate at Babson, he runs
Yeah.
the largest lassi business in US.
Okay.
Okay, and he worked at Microsoft before coming to Babson. Absolutely
Fine.
zero background, and
Acha, that
okay,
way.
and right now, I mean, that guy is if you think about lassis in US, it's a very novel concept. So he sells ready to drink lassis in Whole Foods and some of the other big stores.
Well, let's see if my dream comes to
So I
fruition.
mean,
Ha.
coming back to the choice
So
of
why the choice? I was see. First of all, what I did was I googled the top B schools.
Mhm,
Then I googled the top B schools in operations,
mhm,
as you told me. And Harvard is not that bad. It still stands decently enough
mhm,
in operations. And plus, I wanted to get exposure. Look, my target was to get international exposure, and the more reviews as I read on the internet, they're saying that the diverse culture which Harvard gives you, so it's more basically
I
help you.
again would not rate Howard at really high with regards to diversity. I,
Look, because I attended a seminar also of Harvard in Mumbai.
mhm,
There also I got the same perception.
mhm.
So that was one of the that seminar was the tipping point, which I thought that I should
So
go for.
Harvard's an amazing school. Okay,
Yeah.
for a ton of things. It's probably uh, uh, one of the best schools. I mean, if you look at the consistency of the school, I mean, no other school has been as consistent as Harvard has been with regards to delivering good management education or having some of the best professors out there. That there's no doubt about this. I mean, no one can
Yeah.
really say. But with regards to what you want to do, I mean, what I really ask people to think about is what is it that you want to get out and what is it that you want to do post your MBA? And you can't do two things or three things. You have to focus on that one thing. And one of the things that Harvard and for that matter even Stanford would do, and Stanford to a lesser extent would do, is essentially, your MBA is not just about the professors. It's not just about the school. The biggest thing that your MBA is about is your peers, people who work with you. If you want to really start a juice business, a ready to drink juice business, which I think is the only scalable option out there in most instances, then you're not going to find a lot of people who would be thinking about starting such businesses at Harvard.
Again, there are two part of my. There's a medium term goal and a long term goal. I'll just elaborate then.
Mhm.
What I want is first of all, I'll start a customized fresh fruit juice portal.
Mhm.
It will be like it was the starting was like I went to a gym
Mhm.
and three of my colleagues also went with me. Then the gym instructor suggested us the respective juices according to our requirement.
Mhm.
So without a question of doubt, look, we started consuming them on a daily basis. So then I thought that we can start it as a business. Look,
Mhm.
first we'll start a portal
Mhm.
and then we can ask people to fill in the requirements and then we
Mhm.
can get experts to customize the juices for them. Then we can
Mhm.
deliver them on a daily basis. This will be the starting point.
Mhm.
And then I wanted to use it as a launchpad to start my production facility where
Mhm.
I can extend this from individuals to factions.
Mhm.
Like, suppose you are suffering with diabetes, then uh, the doctor prescribes you certain fruit juice.
So you're talking about customized production facility, right?
Yeah. And
Okay.
then,
How many?
okay, fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me
Yeah.
ask a question. How many flexible production courses did you see taught by Harvard?
I didn't,
You
right
didn't
now,
even look at it, right?
yeah, I
That's
didn't.
precisely what I'm saying. That's the focus that you need to have to choose.
Okay.
Okay. And you won't find a lot of professors over there are looking at flexible production options. In Michigan, you might find a lot of people are looking at how can you build a facility that really caters to flexible production or flexible delivery of supply chain. Because production, trust me, is one part. The biggest challenge in a fresh juice or any fresh product business is a supply chain.
Yes, exactly.
Production is you still have to make a good product.
But supply chain is very important.
But knowing my friend, who basically has 2 facilities right now in the US, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, and his biggest thing is not just those facilities, because that it took about a year to set it up. He's still setting up the supply chains for the product that is being created out of them, and then the third biggest challenge is getting into stores, where a typical lead time for a store is about 2.5 years. So if you start your conversation today, it will take 1.5 years to actually get on the board, and then another year for that product to go on the shelf.
Yes.
Okay, and then and so it's a and because, and if you think about where Harvard and Wharton, not Stanford. Stanford really focuses on these kind of businesses, but Harvard and Wharton focus on a lot of the people go over there in consulting and strategy consulting, which is very little to do with the execution, and a lot of people go in finance, right? You cannot, and if 70 to 80% of your class goes in these areas, you're not going to really find a lot of people discussing about these intricacies of getting into a production business.
But in the seminar, the scenario was different. I don't know.
Look at the data, right? Go figure out. Look at the courses that they're teaching, because the courses is where they're going to have the real discussions.
Yeah, there are courses which like food and agribusiness.
Compare the courses that Michigan offers. Compare the kind of startups that come out of Harvard, and remember, put that in context that Harvard is one of the biggest schools. So there will be a few startups, but the percentage is going to be very, very low. Whereas when you compare the startups, I mean, Babson, for example, you're going to find a ton of such startups from Babson. It's really good in retail and in this aspect of retail. You're going to find a ton of startups from Babson in this case. And by the way, if you go to some of these schools, the benefit that you're going to get is A, much higher chance of success, B, full fellowships. Which I think, if you want to start your own business. We had a student who got a 770. His interview is on LinkedIn. Okay. The guy applied to schools which were good schools, ranked upwards of 20. He not only got a full fellowship from 3 schools, from one school, he actually got a stipend of $1,400 a month just to study. Okay. So this school is paying him to study over there. Okay. Now imagine graduating with actually $50,000 in your pocket, because second year you work also. That's one thing. Or graduating with a loan of $120,000 to $130,000, and then think about starting your business. That's one aspect. The second aspect really is, and then again, I'm saying this to you because you don't want to become a strategy consultant, because you don't want to go into investment banking. If you wanted to go over there, my advice would have been, hey, there's nothing better than Wharton or Harvard or Tuck or even Stanford, but you don't want to do that. So for you, graduating with $140,000 loan, unless and until you have the money to pay it off from your pocket, but even if you have the money, I would say invest in your own facility, because that's what you want to do.
Okay, that was my long-term thing. Initially, I wanted to become operations manager in this like Tropicana section of.
So even then, look at where Tropicana will not hire people from Harvard, because they can't afford Harvard graduates to that extent.
Okay, well, the section had PepsiCo in it, so I thought they do.
Look at how many people Tropicana hires from Harvard versus how many do they hire from Michigan Ross or some of the other schools in Michigan.
Yeah, that thing I didn't do.
That's the data that's important for you.
Yeah. So I'll do my research.
That's something which is super important for you to do your research, because essentially you can apply to Wharton and all of these places and then really be forced to take up a job that you that you don't want, or be forced to really look for jobs because those kind of jobs don't come to you. I mean, imagine being in a B school where you've had where the cases that they discuss and they bring in founders who've set up facilities such as those. You're going to learn a lot more from those founders as to how they went about doing this from scratch.
But how did you transition from that Honeywell to e-GMAT now? I was very curious when I went to
So I think it's partly roots. Pyle and my dad's a teacher. Pyle's mom's a teacher, and we are technologists at heart, and we wanted to do something in the education field, and where technology is involved, and so we really said, hey, what do we know? We know the GMAT, we know technology, and we had no money. That was the third thing. Okay, we had $10,000 to invest. That's all that we had. And we started e-GMAT in the worst economy ever, where it was the 2008 housing crisis that happened in the US. Our house was under, so we had actually lost about $100,000 on our house, which was practically all of our savings post my MBA. And so we had these $10,000 to invest, and that was all the money that we had. But then
going into MBA, this was only your long-term goal?
No, yeah, this was. I mean, an education company was my long-term goal. Yes.
Okay.
So
because I was curious.
It wasn't related to GMAT. It was related to engineering colleges and tier 2 engineering colleges in India. But the idea was using technology to transform the capability, because in tier 2 colleges in India, the professors are really bad.
You are from IIT Calicut. I just saw in your, and I am from IIT Warangal, so that's why I thought that.
No, but I had a younger brother, or have a younger brother. I have a few more cousins who've gone to private colleges, which are tier 2.
Yeah, that I know. The conditions I know about
the conditions are pathetic there, and a lot of people graduate from there.
And right now there are bulk of them, so that's also a problem.
Yes, so that's what I wanted to solve. But then here I was, 4.5 years into Honeywell, and pretty much had lost all my savings, but I felt ready to start my own business because I'd done some very interesting work at Honeywell. And then I really said, I have $10,000, so what? I can't really start at an engineering scale. I can't do a B2B. I have to do a B2C. And so with $10,000, we kind of focus on doing everything on our own. So creating every piece of content on our own, every question and everything. We taught ourselves how to do e-learning. We taught ourselves how to build technology. We use some open source systems to really do this. So it was so it took us 1.5 years to really launch our first sentence correction course. But then we said, if we don't do it now, we're not going to do it ever. So and we said, hey, worst case, what's going to happen? We're going to lose that $10,000 and some time. But $10,000 isn't a whole lot of money anyway. And the time that we've invested, if we don't invest it, we're going to have a regret all our life that we didn't even try it. So we did it, and we focused on student success. He said money is going to come if we help our students succeed, and in the same way as my friend who runs the largest lassi business in US focused on customer taste and nutrition. Those are the two things that he focused on. People should like the lassi that he's selling, and it should have the right amount of nutrition, proteins, fats, and carbs, and so and then he said once he got the right recipe, then he focused on scaling, then he focused on supply chain. He's still focusing on supply chain because that's the biggest challenge. So success came, student success came. We built more courses, more success came, and then we increased the team. We set up offices in India, and we set up offices at other places in US as well. So that is, in short, the e-GMAT story.
So I'll do my research on those terms now.
Yes. Yeah. So do your research. Think about, if you really want to do this, do the math, do the numbers around it to really say, hey, do you really want to? How much cash you think you would need? Talk to people who've built such businesses. People who built Yogi Tea, people who've actually built other ready-to-drink businesses in India and US, smaller brands. and see how they went about, what kind of initial investment did they have.
Yeah.
So I mean, you don't really have to study. I mean, you don't want to get into a business school where you are forced to study, finance and corporate strategy cases for half your MBA. I mean, that's not something that you ultimately want to use. I mean, when I looked at the kind of cases, a lot of cases that I studied, I looked at cases of companies which bootstrapped from $0 to $20 million in revenue in 4 years, and I met those founders who were there in my classroom, and I was
Okay.
able to cross question them directly. And how the hell did you compete with a company that was 10 times your revenue? What did
Yeah.
you do? I mean, there were people who actually would take pizzas to Best Buy and Xerox and which are and basically while people used while the employees ate pizzas and they made friends with them, they would get copies done at half the price at employee prices. And that's one of those things which you bootstrap and you learn how to go about doing that. And which is not something that you're going to get at Harvard, because those people don't do that.
Okay.
It's again, it's
I
about
didn't
what
think
you
of this.
want. It's about,
Wow.
if you want to go into the finance world, it's an amazing world. If you want to go in corporate strategy, it's an amazing world. And then these schools are amazing. But
Right now, the choice is this only.
mhm.
So I didn't think on those grounds. I thought that since in the seminar they said that we have people from all the backgrounds, even the entrepreneurial backgrounds also. So I thought I'll get people from the one which I want.
See, MIT and Harvard, both of them have a lot of entrepreneurs too. Okay. But the kind of entrepreneurship that they put in is tech entrepreneurship. So I was there at MIT last year. I spent about 3 days and talking to the dean over there and talking to their head of entrepreneurship division. We basically, schools host us for a week once a year. Okay. And we talked about the different kind of entrepreneurships, and the head of MIT entrepreneurship at MIT said the kind of entrepreneurship we practice, and because I told him I'm from Babson, he says very different from Babson. In Babson, what they would really tell you is how can you invest $10 and how can you make 20-25 out of it next month or next year, and essentially, you'll do well, but that is a business that will scale to 40-50 million at the most. Okay. At MIT, we focus on how can you do billion-dollar businesses, but even before you start making money, you'd have to invest $100 million in it. So it's a very different business. I mean, if you look at companies, and just you'd see that if you look at companies that come out of MIT. I mean, HubSpot is a classical company that's come out of MIT. It has just started to make money. It's a public company. It's worth $2.5 billion or so, I think, or I think even more. I haven't looked at the valuation recently, but it took a ton of venture funding to really get it there. Okay. Whereas if you look at companies that come out of Babson, companies that come out of a few other entrepreneurial schools which are smaller, you're going to look at companies that don't take a ton of venture funding. Okay. One of my classmates, for example, she started a company that is, it was called True Genes then. Essentially, what it was a company that really created, that looked at who you are, your sizes, and suggested and recommended the best genes for you. Okay, they bootstrapped this company. They started this company in 2005, which when I was still there, and she was still there with me, doing our, both of us were doing our MBA, and essentially right now they supply this technology to all the major retailers. They just in a few years back they raised their first Series A round, but overall I think they still own a good chunk of the equity in the company that way. So again, different businesses, different. So look at what you want to do, and look at what makes sense for you.
Yes. Now I think this is a revelation.
So so yeah, that is it. Look at it, figure out which schools make sense for you. In my opinion, given where you want to go, Harvard and whatnot, not right. Stanford's still good school, based on what you want to do, but not Harvard and Wharton.
One more thing, I had a doubt and apprehension actually regarding the my graduation college. Since NIT Warangal is not that a good college as international standards are concerned, so does that affect my application?
To a certain degree, yes. But again, as you know, it's your application is a cohesive sum of everything that you that you really say about you. So it's not going to be a shining star.
Yeah,
It's
because
not
the
going to be
impression of NITs I think is not, it's not
no,
existent.
no. I would say people know NITs first of all. It's just that people know they're not IITs, but people also know that they're very good. So
Okay.
if you're competing against another Indian from an IIT, then on this front, you're going to really be a bit lower than someone from an IIT. But at the same time, if other aspects of your application are super strong, then yes,
Then we can make up for it. Yeah.
they'll make up for it. So
Yeah.
okay. So yeah. All right, Sanchit, really good talking to you, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, likewise.